Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 121. Title at the end. Alaric left the Baron's study after getting his approval. Following behind him were Henry and Warwick, who were persuading him to let them join the reinforcement team. "My lord, please allow me to go with you. Please take me with you, my lord. I have to be there to lead those stubborn warriors." Alaric already planned to bring them, so he agreed with a nod. "Of course. Besides you two, I will also bring Galliner, Arthur, and Fredrin." The orc invasion was a major event that had almost destroyed Vale in his past life. He wasn't certain if the number of orcs heading to Alverton was on the same scale as it was in his past life, so he wanted to bring as many elite knights as possible. The two were stunned upon hearing his words. "Wouldn't it be too much to bring 5 elite knights, my lord?" Warwick remarked with a baffled look. Orcs might be powerful, but they were reckless and relied too much on their brute strength, so with the right tactics, an army of warriors could take them down. "No." Alaric shook his head. "Don't you find it strange? Why would Alverton ask for reinforcements? Although they don't have a proper army, they can still defeat a small tribe of orcs on their own." Warwick was the first one to realize what he was trying to say, and a look of realization dawned on him. "You mean the number of orcs is too high for them to handle on their own?" Alaric stopped in his tracks and muttered in a grave tone. "If my guess is right, there could be hundreds if not thousands of orcs outside of Alverton." "What?" Henry and Warwick were shocked upon hearing this. They couldn't believe his words. In a single orc tribe, there could be over 20 to 50 orcs, but their number never exceeded 100. There was no such precedent, so they thought that it was impossible. However, when they saw Alaric's unusually grim face, they felt that it might be true, and the thought of it made them tremble. A small tribe of orcs could decimate a village, and a strong orc tribe could even ruin a town. Now, what would happen if there were hundreds of orcs? It would be a disaster. "Shouldn't we report this to the Baron?" Warwick hesitantly spoke. "No. This is just my speculation, so we don't need to alert the Baron. We would only end up wasting his time if I'm wrong." Alaric shook his head. Truthfully, he was already 100% sure that there were 1,000 orcs, and the reason why he didn't want to tell this to the Patriarch was because of the new mission that appeared in front of him. Undersir. Mission: defeat the orcs. Mission difficulty: hard. An army of more than 1,000 orcs are heading towards Alverton. Defeat them and prevent the destruction of the town without the help of a transcendent knight. Rewards: random trait upgrade card X1, 100 stat points, 1,000 battle points, C-rank trait card X1. Penalty for failure: 2,000 battle points, 200 EXP. Undersir. It was his first hard mission. All the missions he had received were mostly easy and normal. Although this mission carried serious risks, he didn't want to miss this rare opportunity. Upon stepping out of the mansion, they saw that the warriors of the household had already gathered. They formed neat rows and columns, displaying their strict order and discipline. The warriors immediately straightened their backs when they saw the 3 coming out of the mansion. Alaric scanned the over 200 warriors with a stern gaze before he turned his head to Warwick and Henry. "How many of them can we bring to Alverton?" he asked. "A third of these warriors are still trainees, so we can't bring them with us. We need to leave about 30 veterans to defend North Pine Town, so that leaves us with slightly over 100 warriors." Warwick replied after some thought. Because of Alaric's aggressive expansion of their military, the household's forces had almost doubled. 100 warriors? That should be enough. Alaric nodded. He then looked at the warriors and said in a booming voice, "Warriors of House Silversword, an army of orcs are currently headed to Alverton. It's only a small town, so they don't have enough manpower to defend against a large-scale orc attack. They are calling for help, and if we don't respond to their calls, the town might be destroyed by those monsters. If those orcs are to be left alone, they might attack our town next. We must stop them before it comes to that. Alaric paused and observed everyone's reaction. The warriors were agitated by his words. Seeing that he had achieved his desired effect, he continued. I will bring half of you to provide reinforcements to Alverton. If you don't wish to participate, please raise your hand. He scanned the crowd, but everyone remained unmoved. No one raised their hand. Even the trainees wished to partake in the mission. Good. I will now select the people who will participate in this mission. If your name is called, please go to that side and wait for further instructions. In the next moment, Alaric carefully selected the warriors that they would bring. He couldn't bring all the knights since North Pinetown also needed protection. After almost 30 minutes, he had finally selected over 100 warriors. To the people who aren't chosen, please stay here and ensure the safety of the town while we're gone. Yes, my lord. To those who are chosen, I will give you half an hour to bid farewell to your families. Yes, my lord. While everyone was making preparations, Alaric headed to the household treasury, hidden within the main mansion. He planned to bring a special item with him for this trip. He already had the rare steel sword, but he felt that it was necessary to have an extra layer of defense for this mission. Chapter 122. The situation in Alverton. On the afternoon of the first day of February, huge clusters of dark clouds loomed over the skies of Alverton. At this moment, no one could be seen on the town streets. It was as if the whole place had been abandoned. However, there was a reason for this lack of activity. At the western gate of Alverton, the town guards gathered atop the walls, looking in the distance with grave faces. Sir Ronan, our scouts have reported that the orcs will be here before nightfall. A warrior reported to the knight dressed in leather armor with steel breastplates and shoulder guards. Hearing this, Ronan frowned. What about our call for reinforcements? He asked while trying to maintain his composure. The messenger sighed and shook his head as he replied. There's still no news from them, sir. Some warriors who were nearby fell into despair when they heard this. With more than 1,000 orc warriors approaching them, all hope was shattered. Ronan had already expected this, but he was still disappointed by the inaction of the surrounding towns and cities. Suddenly, someone's face came into his mind. Wait! Ronan grabbed the leaving messenger and asked with an agitated look. Did you send someone to North Pinetown? The messenger was startled, but he still responded with a nod. Why, yes, sir. But even if they send us reinforcements, it might take them 2 days or more to get here since the road is covered in thick snow. You're right. Ronan exhaled a heavy breath. Even if Lord Alaric brings the warriors of House Silversword, our chances of repelling the orc army are still slim. His mood worsened as he thought of this. Yes, sir. Why don't we leave the town? We still have time to escape. We can bring the townspeople with us. One of the young warriors suggested with an anxious look, his voice trembling. Before Ronan could respond, one of the older warriors lashed out. Are you out of your mind? You actually want to leave the town in this kind of weather? Do you know how many people will die from the cold? Some warriors immediately held back the older warrior, preventing him from beating up the younger guy. The atmosphere became more tense as the warriors argued over what to do. Silence! Ronan shouted as he glared at the ones causing a ruckus. Everyone immediately quieted down upon sensing the anger in his voice. He scanned the faces of his comrades and uttered, I know that the situation is bleak, but we must stay here and protect the town. The outcome of this battle will determine the fate of Alverton. We must not yield for the sake of our families. His words ignited the morale of the warriors. That's right. Since when did we yield? We are the warriors of Alverton. Who cares about 1,000 orcs? I can fight 10 of them on my own. Someone boasted shamelessly. Ha ha ha. The mood lightened a bit, but everyone knew that this was only temporary. Ronan shifted his gaze to the distant woods as he prayed. Aru, please give us your protection. Sir. Good news. An excited voice drifted into everyone's ears. They all turned their gazes at the man who was coming towards the western gates on a horse. This guy was one of the messengers sent to request for reinforcements. His arrival filled everyone with hope. Ronan immediately jumped down from the wall. Seeing this, the messenger pulled the reins and climbed down his horse. He then rushed to Ronan's side and reported, "Sir, House Paxley has sent 50 warriors, including an elite knight. They are now heading here as we speak." "What? Is this true?" Ronan was pleasantly surprised. 50 warriors wasn't much, but an elite knight was another matter. They were fearsome warriors who could fight tens of men simultaneously on their own. "Yes, sir. This is true," the messenger confirmed with a nod. "Great. That's great." Ronan couldn't conceal his joy. The warriors were also excited to hear the news, and some of them even cheered. The 50 warriors would alleviate a great deal of burden for them, so everyone was happy. 20 minutes later, the galloping sounds of horses echoed with the arrival of House Paxley's warriors. Leading them was a stern-faced, middle-aged man with neatly combed hair. With just one look, Ronan could tell that this was the elite knight. In the next moment, the middle-aged elite knight raised his hand, signaling his men to stop. He then jumped down from his horse and scanned the town guards as if he were looking for someone. "Who is the captain here?" he asked, his voice brimming with authority. Ronan took a deep breath and stepped forward as he spoke. "It's me. I'm Ronan, the captain of Alverton's town guards. May I know your name, sir?" The middle-aged elite knight glanced at Ronan and nodded to him. "I'm Jared Paxley, the garrison captain of Rivad's main gate." Ronan was startled when he heard the man's name. He hurriedly lowered his head and apologized. "I apologize for my discourtesy, my lord." "It's all right." Jared waved his hand. "What is the situation? I heard from the messenger you sent that a large number of orcs are coming. Can you elaborate on this for me?" The elite knight inquired with a serious look. "They were sent here by Baron Nathan under the suggestion of the household's heir, Theo Paxley. According to the latter's reasoning, they could wash away the shame caused by Liam's crime through this event. The Baron was convinced by his oldest son's suggestion, so he sent Jared to lead 50 warriors to help Alverton avert its crisis. My lord, you came all the way here to help us, so I will be honest with you. Truthfully, we haven't ascertained the number of orcs, but based on our estimates, there are more than 1,000 of them." "What?" Chapter 123, Orc Army Arrives. Jared was stunned. "Did you just say 1,000? Ronan nodded with a grave look. "Yes, my lord. With the speed of their march, they will be here before nightfall." Jared's expression darkened. He agreed to come here because of the rewards promised by Baron Nathan. Who would have thought that things were actually so dire? "I shouldn't have agreed to come here," he thought bitterly in his heart. Unfortunately for him, it was already too late to retreat. If he left Alverton now, he would definitely be punished by the Baron, and he would also be labeled as a coward. "What preparations have you made?" Jared asked while feigning calmness. "We dug some trenches yesterday. It's not noticeable since the snow has covered the holes we dug. It should slow them." Ronan told him about the preparations they made for this defensive battle. Jared frowned. "It looks like this will be a tough battle." He sighed in his heart. While he was inwardly regretting his decision, Ronan's voice resonated in his ears. "Do you have any instructions, my lord? I will arrange it immediately." The elite knight shook his head. "Not for now. Be on standby and wait for my commands." "Yes, my lord." Soon, a few hours passed and the sky turned even darker. "They are here. The orcs are coming." A scout who was sent out to observe the orc army shouted as he headed toward the western gate on his horse. His words was like a bomb that awakened the warriors. Everyone immediately gathered atop the walls, looking over in the distance with solemn faces. At this moment, Jared narrowed his eyes. With his enhanced vision, he saw a large number of shadows within the woods. "Archers, be ready. Enemies are coming," he shouted while keeping an eye on the woods. The archers tightened their grip upon hearing his commands. They didn't have his powerful vision, so they still couldn't see the approaching orcs. It was then that a loud horn resounded from the forest. The warriors were startled by this abrupt noise, and some even unconsciously grabbed their weapons. Roar! 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 In the next moment, the orc warriors finally came into view. Their large statures and fearsome roars intimidated the town guards. Even the seasoned warriors under Jared Paxley were alarmed. Archers! Knock your arrows! Jared shouted at the panicked warriors. The archers immediately placed an arrow into their bowstring, ready to aim at his signal. Some men took some time to knock their arrows because of the intense shaking of their arms caused by their nervousness. No one laughed at them since they all felt the same. Aim! Jared shouted once more as the orc army approached. The archers lifted their bows while pulling the bowstring to the limits. When the orc army crossed the archers' range, Jared shouted, "Release your arrows! Continue shooting your arrows! Cavalry, prepare to charge with me! Don't let them enter the town!" Jared jumped down the wall and climbed on his horse. The arrows rained down from the sky, hitting some unlucky orc warriors. Su! 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 A few orcs fell and died after being shot in the head, but most of them survived the first wave of arrows. Roar! 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 The orc warriors roared furious at the death of their brethren. They charged recklessly, fearless of the approaching arrows. Su! 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 More orcs fell under the heavy barrage of arrows, but they didn't retreat. The death of their comrades only made them even more enraged. Fueled by anger, the orc warriors sped up their charge. Meanwhile, inside the town, Jared pulled his sword and shouted, "Open the gates!" As soon as he gave the command, the warriors opened the gates, while the cavalrymen pulled their weapons. Jared took a deep breath. "Please guide me, Aru." In that instant, his eyes flashed with ferocity as he pointed his sword forward. "Charge!" He squeezed his legs, urging his horse to move forward. The cavalrymen immediately followed him, roaring at the top of their lungs to shake off their fears. The archers stopped firing their arrows the moment the cavalrymen stepped out of the town. Clang! 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 The fearsome clash between both sides finally erupted. The momentum of the cavalrymen crushed the scattered orc warriors, killing dozens in the blink of an eye. However, their speed slowed down as more orc warriors appeared. To prevent his soldiers from being surrounded, Jared employed a hit-and-run tactic. More orc warriors died under their hands, but some cavalrymen also fell. "It's not looking good for us. There are too many of them." Jared's expression abruptly changed upon seeing the unfortunate ending of some cavalrymen. "Don't slow down. Keep up with me," he shouted at the faltering warriors. "Yes, my lord." Suddenly, a loud boom echoed from behind them. Boom! Jared turned his head and saw a large orc about twice the size of a normal orc warrior. Its left chest was covered in strange black tattoos, and it had horns on either side of its head. An orc general! Jared's eyes widened at the sight of this towering monster. It was a fatal grade monster nearing the realms of the disaster grade. Its power was comparable to that of elite knights, making it one of the most fearsome beasts among the orcs. The orc general brandished its weapon, an incredibly huge two-handed axe. Whoosh! Boom! One unlucky cavalry rider was crushed into meat paste, and even his horse was cut in half. Despair flashed in everyone's eyes when they saw this scene. It was a monster that no ordinary warrior could hope to defeat. "Don't move away from our formation," Jared shouted as he pulled the reins, instructing his horse to turn around. "My lord, what are you doing?" Ronan was surprised when he saw this. With a grim smile, Jared uttered, "I have to block that thing. You guys go first. I will follow soon." The cavalrymen hesitated, but when they saw his stern face, they immediately squeezed their legs and prompted their horses to move faster. "Be careful, my lord," Ronan muttered before he left with the rest. After they left, Jared eyed the orc general and bellowed, "Come at me." Chapter 124. Jared against the orc general. 5 orc warriors pounced at Jared, swinging their battle axes at him. Facing these orcs, Jared snorted as he waved his sword, blocking and deflecting their axes with incomparable precision. Clang, clang, clang. With a series of quick slashes, the 5 orc warriors fell. He then looked at the orc general who was staring at him with a twisted smile. It was as if the beast didn't care about its comrade's death. Human. Much to Jared's surprise, the orc general suddenly spoke in the common language. Even among the orcs, only a few could speak the common tongue. This means that this particular orc general had a high status. Are you challenging me, Uluk Ar? The mocking tone was evident in its voice. It was obvious that it didn't take Jared too seriously. The intimidating aura of the orc general was so heavy. Jared could feel his horse shaking from the immense pressure. It was feeling an instinctive fear toward a predator. Jared didn't respond to the orc general. He just pointed his sword at the monster, which made it reveal a look of fury. With a heavy stomp, the orc general lunged at him while brandishing its massive battle axe. Whoosh! A tearing sound echoed as its axe tore through the air. It even created a powerful shockwave that caused a violent explosion. Bang! Jared managed to evade the axe, but the shockwave made his horse stumble and fall to the ground. Arg! Jared groaned as he hastily picked himself up. He looked at his horse, but he discovered that it had passed out from shock. Left with no choice, Jared could only fight without it. At this moment, more orc warriors rushed at him. Their deep and beastly roars fell into his ears. Clang, clang, poochie, poochie, clang, clang, poochie, poochie. The orc warriors couldn't even land a blow on him, and they all ended up dying under his hands. I can still take care of these small fries, but that thing is different, he thought as he glanced at the towering presence of the orc general. The monster seemed to be enjoying the process of hunting him, and this made Jared feel unnerved. He had rarely been afraid in his life, but this time, a feeling of fear washed over him. With an amused smile, the orc general uttered, "Are you afraid?" Its deep, booming voice drifted into his ears. Jared took a deep breath to shake off his fear, and with feigned composure, he replied, "Why would a proud warrior of House Paxley fear a monster? No matter what happens, you will never make me yield." The orc general cackled, seemingly amused by his charade. "Do you think you can hide your fear from me? I can smell it, and you can't hide that appetizing smell from me." Jared felt uncomfortable all over his body when he saw its unusual gaze. Sweat trickled down his face as he observed his surroundings in search of a possible escape route. The others should have escaped by now. I must retreat and regroup with them. While he was thinking how he would escape from the situation, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. He caught sight of a huge axe sweeping in his direction. Whoosh! Jared quickly rolled to the side, the axe narrowly missing his head by a few inches. Without hesitation, he pushed himself up and ran away while applying mana to his legs. "You can't run from me!" The orc general's furious roars resonated, but Jared didn't look back. The towering monster chased after him. However, the hateful human was faster and more nimble, and soon, it was no longer in its sight. Roar! Meanwhile, Jared had already retreated quite a distance from the monster, giving him enough time to catch his breath. It's not worth it to fight that monster. Even if I somehow kill it, the orc warriors will only surround me and I would have no room to escape. Suddenly, he felt the ground shaking, making him alarmed. He looked around and quickly noticed that the orc general had caught up to him. The monster's eyes were blood-red, looking incredibly furious that it had allowed its prey to escape. Jared cursed under his breath. He knew that retreating was useless at this point. If he lured this beast to the town, the other warriors would only be implicated. How could a proud warrior like him drag others down? His pride wouldn't allow such inhuman behavior. So I have to fight it, huh? Then so be it. Having found the determination to fight, Jared regained his composure. He tightly held his sword while keeping an eye on the approaching orc general. "Human coward! I will feast on your flesh after I crush your bones." The monster roared as it charged at him. Jared didn't just stand there. He rushed at the monster while carefully observing its movements so the moment it would attack, he would be ready to dodge. In that instant, the orc general swung its battle axe in a downward motion, intending to squash the cowardly human with one ferocious force. Jared had already anticipated this. He made a quick turn, twisting his body to dodge the fatal blow. Bang! Snow and mud splashed in all directions after the beast's axe struck the ground hard. Jared didn't waste this opportunity. He lunged at the monster and stabbed his sword towards its head. However, the orc general suddenly shifted its head, which caused him to miss his intended target. Even so, his sword penetrated deeply into the monster's chest. Foolish human! The orc general snorted and grabbed him like he was a toy before throwing his body into the ground with heavy force. Bang! Jared smashed into the ground, his body embedding deeply like a hammered nail. Arg! Cough! Blood trickled down his lips as he coughed violently. His vision was blurred by his own blood, but he could still see the orc general staring at him with unconcealed contempt. Chapter 125, Heroic Sacrifice. Just when he thought that he would meet his end, a hand pulled him out of the pit. "Are you all right, my lord?" Jared turned his gaze and realized that it was Ronan, the captain of Alverton's town guards. "Why did you come back?" he muttered with difficulty. Ronan grinned at him. "We can't let you die here, my lord. Go and bring Lord Jared away from here. We will buy you some time," shouted a knight who came with Jared. Hearing this, Jared wanted to say something, but he couldn't utter a word as he spat a mouthful of blood. Cough! "Please take care, my lord. Let's drink and feast in the afterlife." The knight shouted his last words while laughing heroically. "No!" Jared stumbled when he pushed Ronan away. "Don't waste their sacrifice, my lord. You must survive." Ronan grabbed him and carried him to his horse. "Hiya!" Ronan squeezed his legs and urged his horse to leave while holding Jared firmly to prevent the latter from falling off. Jared watched his subordinates attack the orc general. That was the last thing he saw before he lost consciousness. After they left, the orc general released its fury on the humans who took away its prey.
Covar-li humans.
D. Whoosh! With one swing of its battle axe, it slashed two warriors in half, killing them on the spot. Seeing this, the knight who came to rescue Jared was flustered. He stabbed the monster's body with his spear, but it hardly did much damage. The orc general glared at the knight and grabbed him, lifting him into the air. It then opened its huge mouth and crushed the knight's body with its sharp teeth. Ah! The knight didn't die immediately. He screamed while trying to pull out his body from the monster's mouth, but with another bite, his body was ruthlessly torn apart. Blood splashed all over its mouth, giving it a more cruel image. The orc general casually threw the lower half of the knight's body into its mouth, swallowing everything in one large gulp. Human knights taste the best. The monster grinned as it eyed the remaining warriors who were now trembling with fear. Seeing the cowering humans, it excitedly licked its lips before it shouted to the orc warriors, "Kill them all and feast on their flesh." Upon hearing his command, the orc warriors eagerly rushed at the humans. Soon, cries for help echoed as the human warriors were eaten alive by the orcs. Meanwhile, Ronan had already regrouped with the remaining cavalrymen. "Please bring Lord Jared inside the town to be treated," he instructed as he handed the unconscious elite knight to a town guard. "Yes, sir." The town guard took the unconscious warrior and left with haste. "What should we do now?" someone asked Ronan. With Jared incapacitated, Ronan had to lead the group as the next person in command. Feeling everyone's gazes on him, Ronan felt the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He took a deep breath and scanned each warrior's face before he uttered, "We will fight." Hearing his words, everyone tightly gripped their weapons. "Many of our comrades died to protect the town. We will only waste their sacrifice if we retreat now." Seeing their hesitation, he added, "I know that all of you don't want to die, so I won't force you to fight with me. To those who are prepared to die, follow me into battle. Let's kill as many orcs as we can." "That's right. Who do you think you are? I will follow you and kill 5 orcs before I die. More warriors spoke, expressing their determination to offer their lives for one final struggle. Ronan smiled upon hearing their words. He raised his war hammer and shouted at the top of his lungs. For Alverton! Kill them all! Kill them all! Kill! Under Ronan's leadership, the remaining cavalrymen charged at the orc warriors. Their morale was through the roof, and this boost in confidence guided them into launching a fierce counterattack. At this moment, Ronan lifted his war hammer and smashed the head of an orc warrior like watermelon. Splat! Blood and brain juices splattered all over his face and his armor. With him at the forefront, they decimated dozens of orc warriors, leaving a trail of blood and corpses in their wake. However, their ferocious charge soon came to an end when their exhaustion began to take over. One cavalryman after another died after being surrounded by a group of furious orc warriors. The situation quickly turned around with their stamina running low. Even Ronan was now gasping for breath as he forced his way out of the encirclement together with the remaining cavalry riders. Brothers, let's feast in Aru's kingdom, a middle-aged knight who had an axe deeply embedded into his chest shouted as he rushed forward, giving Ronan and the others enough room to maneuver using his body as a shield. Seeing his selfless sacrifice, Ronan and the remaining warriors felt a wave of sorrow and grief. Ronan applied more mana to his arms, momentarily giving him strength despite his exhaustion. With a wave of his war hammer, multiple heads burst, exploding like hammered pumpkins. More orc warriors blocked his path, forcing him to fight a large number of enemies simultaneously. I won't die so easily. Ronan's mount had already fallen at some point and his left arm had been cut off. Suddenly, a towering figure came into their view. It was the orc general that defeated the elite knight Jared Paxley. Ronan smiled bitterly at the sight of this massive beast. It looks like this will be my end. He mentally prepared himself. However, something unexpected happened in the next moment. A figure appeared in front of the orc general. It was an unfamiliar warrior holding a giant two-handed heavy sword. With a casual swing of his massive weapon, he struck the orc general, leaving a deep wound that opened up its chest. Chapter 126. A more powerful monster? The orc general's innards burst out as it staggered awkwardly before its massive body fell to the ground with a heavy bang. Bang. Ronan gasped in disbelief. Who is that person? He actually killed that monster in just one move. The arrogant beast that had killed many of their comrades and severely injured Jared Paxley died just like that. Couldn't even block the two-handed heavy sword. Subsequently, the man who had killed the orc general appeared in front of Ronan. Whoosh! With just one swing of his two-handed heavy sword, all the orc warriors around them were blasted into smithereens. Their blood and pieces of their flesh exploded in all directions. Bloody hell! So strong! Ronan's eyes widened at the incomprehensible scene. After killing the orc warriors, the man lowered his sword and turned to look at him. Are you, Sir Ronan? Ronan nodded absent-mindedly. Follow me. Lord Alaric is looking for you. But before that, let's get that wound patched up first. The man stabbed his heavy sword into the ground before he approached Ronan and gave the latter timely first aid to stop his bleeding. It was only when his left shoulder had been patched up that Ronan had regained his clarity. Who might you be, sir? He asked while cautiously staring at the middle-aged warrior. I'm Galliner. I serve Lord Alaric. So it's Lord Alaric and the warriors of House Silversword. Galliner. Ronan repeated the name in his mind. Galliner was one of the most powerful men he had seen, so he didn't want to forget this name. Let's go. The others will clean up the scattered orcs. Galliner stood up and grabbed his heavy sword. Hearing this, Ronan nodded. He rose to his feet and glanced at his remaining comrades. Only 27 of them survived, and all of them had injuries of varying degrees. Let's go, everyone. Our reinforcements are here. The others let out a heavy breath upon his words. They had already resigned themselves. Now that there was a chance for them to live, they felt like they had climbed out of the abyss. In the next moment, a cavalry army clad in steel breastplate over their leather armor, charged at the orc warriors. The person leading them was a middle-aged man wielding a double-bladed spear. Under his command, they mercilessly charged in an arrow formation, piercing through the scattered orc warriors without any resistance. It was already dark, but with his vision enhanced by mana, Ronan witnessed how the light cavalry army destroyed the orc warriors like they were nothing. Is this the strength of House Silversword's warriors? Soon afterward, Galanor brought them near the western gate where a few warriors had gathered. These warriors were respectfully standing behind a young man with a pair of swords tied to his waist and a shield strapped on his back. Seeing him, Ronan felt a bit emotional. "My lord, I have brought the survivors. I also found Sir Ronan," Galanor reported as he pointed at Ronan's group. Alaric looked over and saw Ronan, whose body was covered in wounds. When he saw that the latter's left arm was gone, he sighed internally. "Thank you for answering our call for reinforcements, my lord." Ronan bowed deeply to him. The warriors who had come with him also expressed their gratitude. Alaric nodded as he carefully tapped Ronan's shoulder. "I'm glad that we came here on time. You should get treated. We will talk later." "Yes, my lord." Someone escorted Ronan's group inside the town where the medical personnel were stationed. Looking at them, Alaric noticed the familiar insignia of House Paxley. So they also sent people to support Alverton. He quickly understood their objective. House Paxley had an awkward reputation in the north because of the incident during the sacred duel. Helping Alverton avert its crisis was a good way to wash away the shameful event that happened at that time. Alaric shook off these thoughts and focused his attention on the battlefield as he asked Galanor, "How is the situation?" "My lord, only one orc general has appeared and there are about 300 orc warriors present. However, I can sense that there are still more of them hidden deep within the forest. Furthermore, there are a lot of powerful auras similar to the orc general I killed. By my estimates, there should be 15 of them." Galanor promptly responded. Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. 15 orc generals and over 1,000 orc warriors. I'm pretty sure there's a stronger orc leading this army. It's definitely that thing. Alaric thought about the monster that led the orc invasion in his past life. It was a walking disaster of a beast, an absolute nightmare that almost destroyed Vale. Since this is a hard mission, I'm certain that it's here. His gaze hardened as he thought of this. Preserve your strength. I'm afraid there is a monster far stronger than the orc generals commanding this orc army. Alaric uttered in a grim voice. His words made everyone frown. The orc generals were already troublesome and only powerful elite knights like Galanor, Warwick, and Fredrin could beat them. Arthur and Henry would have some difficulties fighting one since they had just advanced recently. My lord, what kind of monster are you talking about? Henry asked with an inquisitive look. As an elite knight, he had an inherent advantage in sensing auras, but he couldn't sense the monster that Alaric was talking about. The warriors curiously at Alaric, waiting to hear his answer. Alaric had already prepared his response even before coming here, so he was quick to reply. Normally, orc tribes are usually helmed by an orc general, but there are times when they need to gather, especially when there is a severe lack of resources. During this process of gathering, infighting is pretty common. He explained what he had learned in his past life. The winning orc generals would eat the flesh of their defeated opponents, and this would sometimes trigger an evolution. He paused for a moment before he continued. A powerful monster is thus born, an orc lord. Chapter 127. The Strength of House Silversword's Warriors. An orc lord? I thought it was just a legend. Does that thing really exist? Henry raised his eyebrows in disbelief. Yes, it is real. Alaric nodded solemnly. If he had not seen it in his past life, he wouldn't believe it as well. No way, Henry muttered in shock. Suddenly, Alaric clapped his hand to gather everyone's attention. The warriors turned their gazes at him. Seeing that he had gathered their attention, Alaric spoke in a stern voice. We don't know for sure whether that monster is here, so we need to preserve everyone's strength. He turned his head and said, Sir Warwick's group has already been there for a while, so I need your team to replace them, Sir Fredrin. Hearing his commands, Fredrin nodded. Yes, my lord. Go! Alaric waved his hand indifferently. Fredrin didn't waste any time and gave a signal to his troops to follow him. After he left, Alaric glanced at the remaining elite knights and reminded them, "You three should get ready and prepare to replace Sir Fredrin at any time." "Yes, my lord." Meanwhile, Fredrin's team replaced Warwick's group, and the former continued to launch a series of fierce attacks on the Orc warriors. With their superior tactics, the Orc warriors' numbers quickly fell and the corpses of their brethren were buried in the snow. Fredrin thought that the battle would be easy, but a change suddenly occurred on the enemy's side. For Orc generals appeared wielding massive weapons proportional to their towering sizes. Behind them were hundreds of Orc warriors, pouring into the battlefield with loud and sonorous battle cries. Their emergence made Fredrin's face fall. Although he was powerful among the elite knights, he would have some trouble in dealing with 4 Orc generals. "Fire the signal arrow," Fredrin instructed with an urgent tone. One of his subordinates immediately fired a signal arrow into the sky. The arrow rose into the sky and exploded upon reaching its peak. "Don't scatter. Maintain our defensive formation until support arrives," Fredrin shouted to his men as he eyed the incoming wave with a serious look. "Yes, sir." The warriors immediately clustered together, forming a tight diamond wall with Fredrin at the vanguard. "Brace for impact," Fredrin roared as he raised his shield. "Shield! Stab!" Fredrin issued instructions in an organized manner, making sure that no Orc warrior could penetrate their defensive wall. As more Orc warriors charged at them, the pressure intensified. However, Fredrin's team was like a formidable fortress, staunch and strong. A few of his men were injured, but no one died, so they were able to maintain their defensive lines with great resilience. In the next moment, the sounds of galloping horses echoed behind them, signaling the arrival of their support. Fredrin turned his head. He saw Henry and Arthur leading another light cavalry unit to assist them. With their arrival, a fearsome clash ensued. Clang, 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 bang, bang, bang. Unlike Fredrin's team, the unit jointly led by Henry and Arthur was more focused on offensive maneuvers. In particular, both the newly advanced elite knights displayed the most overwhelming strength. They were like twins of chaos, effortlessly culling the lives of the Orc warriors. Seeing that their brethren were getting decimated, the 4 Orc generals simultaneously moved. They lunged at Fredrin's group, thinking that they would be easier targets. Fredrin narrowed his eyes when he realized the monster's intentions. He injected mana into his body, strengthening his defensive ability to the maximum. "Do you think you can take me down that easily?" He snorted as he urged his mount to move forward. He might not be able to defeat 4 Orc generals on his own, but he was confident that he could hold them down temporarily. "Come at me!" He roared tauntingly at the Orc generals, looking completely fearless. Suddenly, the fastest Orc general arrived before him and swung its weapon, a huge sword that looked like a large slab of steel. Whoosh! To minimize the pressure on his mount, Fredrin didn't block the attack. He tilted his shield to deflect the huge sword. Bang! After missing its target, the sword smashed the ground, creating a deep pit underneath. Meanwhile, the 3 Orc generals also attacked him in 3 different directions, not giving him any room to escape. However, Fredrin had already anticipated this. He squeezed his legs and pulled the reins, urging his horse to make a quick turn. Subsequently, he raised his shield to block an attack and used his sword to deflect another. Clang! Bang! Fredrin took a deep breath. He might have blocked their attacks, but the force still made his arms numb. He could also feel his horse shaking from the intense pressure. If it weren't for his mana, his mount might have already been killed. "Good job in delaying these monsters, Sir Fredrin." A carefree laugh drifted into his ears. Soon, a figure holding a sword appeared behind an Orc general and swiftly swung his sword into its neck. Poochie! A huge head flew with one slice and its headless body fell with a heavy thud, collapsing to the snow-covered ground. Meanwhile, Arthur appeared next to another Orc general, casually slitting its throat with a swipe of his sword. The The poor beast gasped and staggered as it stared at Arthur with hatred and disbelief. It then fell to its knees, blood gushing out of its neck like a fountain. These two are improving quickly, Fredrin thought upon seeing their performance. Soon afterward, they made quick work of the remaining 2 orc generals. Meanwhile, their subordinates had also annihilated the orc warriors. Fredrin inspected his team and noticed that 2 of them were missing. He looked around and soon discovered their corpses buried in the snow. Please guide their souls into your embrace, Aru. He prayed in his heart. On the other hand, the unit commanded by Henry and Arthur lost 4 people. This made the 2 old warriors feel dejected. Suddenly, Fredrin glanced in a certain direction, his eyes widening in trepidation. Something terrible is coming. Chapter 128, Maxed Out Mana. Henry and Arthur also sensed the overpowering aura in the darkness, which chilled their hearts. Is that the monster that my lord was talking about earlier? Henry muttered, looking visibly shaken by the intense aura he felt within the dark forest. That should be it. Arthur nodded with a grim look. At this moment, they heard the sound of galloping horses behind them. When they looked over, they saw Alaric leading the remaining warriors to their position. My lord! Alaric waved his hand while keeping his eyes on the forest. My lord, it's coming. Galliner, who was beside him, uttered with narrowed eyes. Hearing this, Alaric immediately made a hand signal as he shouted, Everyone get ready. The true battle is about to begin. We will be fighting as a group this time. Keep your eyes peeled. As his words fell, everyone felt the ground trembling. In the next moment, more orc warriors emerged from the dark forest, rushing toward them with ferocious expressions. There were also 11 orc generals in their ranks, charging with explosive momentum. The warriors tensed up at the sudden appearance of over 1,000 orc warriors. Seeing that his subordinates were faltering, Alaric took the frontmost position and grabbed the dark diamond shield as he shouted, Do not waver. Behind us are the citizens of Estania. As warriors of the Empire, it is our responsibility to protect them. Everyone regained their sense of clarity as his words drifted into their ears. Warriors of House Silversword, charge with me. Alaric pulled his rare steel sword and urged his horse to move with a kick. Roar! Roar! Kill them! Defend Alverton! The roars of the orcs and the sonorous shouts of the warriors resonated into the air. Clang! 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 A fierce collision followed as the 2 armies clashed. At the initial clash, the warriors displayed their superior tactical ability, using a turtle-like formation to pierce through the enemy lines. At the very front, Alaric was like a stalwart wall. No orc warriors could break his shield, and the orcs that attacked him died with a slash or stab of his sword. He was indomitable, and his presence fueled the fighting spirit of his warriors. I'll preserve my mana for the time being. Using it against these orc warriors is too wasteful. With 2 relics in his hands, he fought without worrying for his safety. The dark diamond shield in particular was very sturdy, and even the orc generals couldn't break its defenses. While they were slaughtering the orc warriors, a 2-meter-tall orc with red skin suddenly came into their view. It was holding a pair of bone sickles, looking incredibly hideous and grotesque. With the arrival of this creature, the elite knights behind Alaric felt uneasy. Alaric narrowed his eyes. You're finally here. Sir Galliner, Sir Warwick. Follow me. We can't let that monster wreak havoc. Alaric knew this monster's abilities. Unlike most orcs who were focused on strength and durability, this creature was fast and agile. It also possessed intelligence that was on par with humans. In his past life, this beast alone had killed almost half of Vale's warriors, including a bunch of knights. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was the incarnation of nightmare and death. Alaric didn't want to see his subordinates die in front of him, so he opted to take care of it as soon as possible. The orc lord tilted its head, a mocking grin hanging on its hideous face.
Punyumans.
Its contemptuous voice resonated in the air. Whoosh! Its figure blurred and disappeared before reappearing in front of Galliner. It then smiled wickedly as it swung its sickles at him. Galliner snorted and made a quick turn as he lifted his two-handed heavy sword. Clang! A violent clang echoed as their weapons collided. Galliner was able to block its attack, but his face turned pale when he sensed the monster's power. It was more powerful than he had anticipated, and its raw strength even surpassed the orc general's despite its smaller frame. You are a bit powerful for a human, but you have one weakness. The orc lord grinned. Subsequently, its figure blurred and reappeared behind Galliner. You're too slow. Not a chance. Alaric came at the right time to block the sickles with the dark diamond shield. Clang. Although he powered the relic with his mana, the residual force was still too much to handle, and it made him groan. He was sent flying, but he managed to land stably on the ground. Meanwhile, Warwick launched a sneak attack while the monster was occupied with Alaric and Galliner. He brandished his double-bladed spear, causing strong fluctuations in the air. Whoosh! As if it had eyes on its back, the orc lord shifted its body and deflected his attack. Sheeing! You guys are too slow. The orc lord chuckled with an amused expression. Alaric furrowed his eyebrows, his expression darkening as he realized the gravity of the situation. I need to use the stat points I saved up. Without hesitation, Alaric distributed his stat points. He maxed out his mana first since it was very crucial in effectively using the two relics. After that, he distributed the remaining stat points evenly into different attributes. Alaric's Silversword, Knight, EXP. 500/500. Cannot receive more EXP before advancement. Potential, B. Traits. Horseback riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth sense, F. Monster affinity, F. Strength, 100. Stamina, 50+. Agility, 100. Vitality, 32+. Endurance, 47+.
Mana, 100.
Battle points, 4440. Stat points, 0. Requirements for the next advancement: 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Now, he had 3 max attributes, but he wasn't in the best situation to celebrate his progress. Alaric could feel the sharp increase in his mana. It was so substantial that even the Orc Lord was surprised when it sensed the fluctuations of mana around him. Chapter 129, Orc Lord's Weakness. What a peculiar human! The monster tilted its head as it looked at Alaric with interest. Your mana? How did you unleash that amount of mana? Alaric didn't say anything and lunged at the creature, while injecting mana into his rare steel sword. As his mana began to coalesce within the sword, the archaic patterns on the surface of its blade lit up. The moment he swung his sword, a crescent-shaped blade light shot towards the Orc Lord. Whoosh! Seeing this, the Orc Lord revealed a look of surprise. The blade light was so fast that it almost failed to evade the devastating blow. With a twist of its body, the blade light only made a slight graze in its chest. The monster looked down and stared at the wound on its chest. When the pain registered, its eyes revealed a look of fury. Suddenly, it disappeared from its location. It moved so fast, and coupled with the darkness, it became even more difficult to pinpoint its position. Whoosh! In the next second, the monster appeared behind Alaric and slashed its sickles at him, intending to tear him apart. Alaric's instincts kicked in, and he turned while lifting the dark diamond shield. Clang! The monster's sickles struck the shield. Alaric's legs wobbled from the impact and his arms were almost crushed. He quickly imbued his limbs with mana to increase his endurance, but the pain made him grimace. My lord! Galliner and Warwick immediately attacked the Orc Lord upon seeing this. Clang! Clang! Bang! The 2 elite knights couldn't even touch its shadow as it effortlessly evaded their attacks. Alaric watched the scene with sweat trickling down his face. We need more people here, but Fredrin and the other 2 are needed there to take care of the orc generals. Just then, he suddenly heard a familiar voice in the distance. Lord Alaric, we're here to provide support. Alaric turned his head and was pleasantly surprised to see Roland his subordinates joining the fray. Roland was rushing towards them on his horse, while his men had already engaged with the orc warriors. The orc lord was visibly annoyed by the appearance of another human. Furthermore, this human's aura was also powerful, just a little bit weaker than the human with a heavy sword. "Did I come right on time, my lord?" Roland chuckled as he pulled the reins of his horse in front of Alaric. "I didn't expect to see you here, Sir Roland." Alaric smiled back in response. "I owe you for that swordsmanship lesson, so I came here to repay the favor," Roland responded before he looked at the orc lord. It was the first time he had seen this monster, and its aura gave him quite the shock. A disaster-grade monster. Looking at his stunned face, Alaric explained, "That's an orc lord. As you have seen, it's fast and nimble, so it's very difficult to subdue, but that thing has one fatal weakness." He recalled his conversation with elf princess, Ivana, during their travels. According to her, the heart of an orc lord was located just right beneath its neck in between its collar bones. Alaric relayed this information to Roland. "I see. We just need to hit its heart." The elite knight mumbled while narrowing his eyes. "That's easier said than done." Alaric shook his head. "So what do you want me to do?" Roland asked. "Simple. I want you to distract it together with those two. Once it's occupied, I will deal the finishing blow." Alaric replied. Roland sent him an uncertain look. Sensing his doubt, Alaric smiled faintly. "Don't worry. I have the means to inflict damage on that beast." He didn't bother to explain. He would just show him what he could do. To be precise, he would show him what it means to have a relic-level sword. All right. Roland chose to trust the young man. He didn't know why, but Alaric had this charisma that would make others willingly trust him. It was a strange feeling. At this moment, the orc lord was busy fighting with Warwick and Galliner. Roland took the chance to join them, increasing the pressure on the orc lord. Meanwhile, Alaric silently blended into the darkness while retracting his mana, making sure that the beast wouldn't sense his presence. "I have to wait for the right moment. I only have one chance. If I fail, then it will be difficult to find another chance since it will be on guard." Alaric thought. Bang! Clang! The battle between the orc lord and the elite knights was becoming increasingly violent. Their fierce clash caused massive destruction to the surroundings, and it almost looked like a tornado had struck. The arrogant beast no longer held back. It released its mana, greatly amplifying its physical strength. With its power nearly doubled, Roland and the other two could hardly defend its attacks. If it weren't for their resilient and sturdy body, they would have already collapsed from the repeated beatings. Their armor was like paper, unable to provide them with protection against the sharp sickles of the orc lord. So this is the power of a disaster-grade monster. No, I'm sure that this guy is not just an ordinary monster at this level. It must be stronger than other monsters in the same classification. Roland thought with gritted teeth. He had only joined the fight, but he had already sustained more than a dozen cuts and stab wounds. Where is Lord Alaric? If this goes on, not to mention, I bet those two won't survive for long. He glanced at Galliner and Warwick, whose injuries were far worse than his own. What surprised him was the calmness of the man named Galliner. Despite his wounds being the most severe, he stood tall like an unbending pillar. Filthy humans! Your resistance is futile. The orc lord relaxed its guard as it stared at the battered faces of the humans. Suddenly, it recalled something important. There is one missing. It was alarmed when it discovered that one of its prey was missing. Just as it turned its head, a sharp, almost invisible blade light shot towards it and crushed into its chest. Pa! Chapter 130. Maximum Battle Points. The monster smashed heavily and was buried deeply into the ground. A large wound could be seen in its chest that exposed the heart that was located just in between its collarbones. The Ord Lord was still processing what had happened when another blade light struck it. This time, it pierced its heart and crushed it thoroughly with tremendous force. Bang! As the Orc Lord gradually lost consciousness, it saw a figure emerging from the darkness, a human wearing an expressionless face. It's you. The Orc Lord soon collapsed after uttering those words. See if it's dead and dig out its beast soul crystal, Alaric shouted as he appeared behind Galliner and the other two. Galliner nodded upon hearing his command and rushed toward the body of the Orc Lord. He then raised his two-handed heavy sword and swung it down. Bang! The Orc Lord's head was cleanly separated from its body. After making sure that it was dead, Galliner dug out its beast soul crystal and handed it to Alaric. My lord, here's the beast soul crystal. Alaric took the red crystal from his hand and quietly inspected it. What a fearsome energy. This is definitely top class among the disaster-grade beast soul crystals. He carefully stowed the crystal. This wasn't the right time to admire it. The battle was far from over. Alaric lifted his head and looked at the battlefield with narrowed eyes. Among the 11 Orc generals, 4 had already been killed, but a large number of Orc warriors were still alive. Let's help them clean up the remaining monsters, Alaric commanded while signaling with his hand. Yes, my lord. Warwick and Galliner immediately rushed to support the warriors, while Roland lagged behind them. Meanwhile, Alaric walked towards the headless corpse of the Orc Lord and frowned. This monster isn't as strong as I had remembered. Is this really the same Orc Lord that killed half of Vale's veteran knights? Alaric turned the corpse over and studied its appearance. Is it weaker because it appeared earlier than it did in my past life? Or are there stronger Orc Lords out there? No one could answer his questions, and it made him feel frustrated. While Alaric was ruminating over this, the battle against the Orcs was still raging. In that short span of time, 3 more Orc generals had been killed while hundreds of Orc warriors had been slaughtered. Half an hour later, the last Orc warrior fell lifelessly into the ground. Sir. Mission complete. Rewards: Random Trait Upgrade Card X1, 100 Stat Points, 1000 Battle Points, C-Rank Trait Card X1. Sir. Do you want to use the Random Trait Upgrade card? Yes. No. Do you want to use the C-Rank Trait card? Yes. No. Alaric clicked. Yes. Since the battle was already over. Congratulations. Your trait 6th Sense, F, has been upgraded to 6th Sense, E. Congratulations. You have awakened the C-Rank Mana Gathering trait. Alaric quickly inspected his profile. Alaric Silversword, Knight, EXP. 500/500. Cannot receive more EXP before advancement. Potential, B. Traits: Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close Combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. 6th Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering, C. Strength, 100. Stamina, 50+. Agility, 100. Vitality, 32+. Endurance, 47+.
Mana, 100.
Battle Points, 5,000. Cannot receive more battle points before advancement. Stat Points, 100. Requirements for the next advancement: 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Just then, more prompts appeared before him. Sir. Mission: Evacuation. Mission difficulty: Normal. Alverton will face another Orc attack in a month. Persuade the residents to relocate to North Pinetown before that happens. Rewards: 100 stat points. Penalty for failure: 1,000 battle points. Sir. Seeing this, Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. So there are still more Orcs coming, and it's also possible that there is another Orc Lord. Alaric's expression changed. Things had already deviated from what originally happened in his past life. From what he remembered, there was only one Orc Lord that attacked Vale, and it had an army of thousands of Orc warriors. The next mission had already hinted that an even larger Orc army would attack Alverton. Suddenly, he heard someone approaching him. My lord, I'm here to give my report. Warwick saluted with a solemn voice. Hearing his tone, Alaric nodded with a serious look. Go on. I'm listening. 18 of our warriors died in battle. 2 of them are It was a casualty report, and hearing that they had lost almost 20 men made him feel a sense of sorrow. Those warriors were his loyal subordinates, and losing them made his heart heavy. Gather the corpses of our comrades. They will be buried as heroes of the Empire, and their families will receive compensation to reward their sacrifice. Furthermore, their children will receive educational funding, and they will also be prioritized for night training. He paused and took a deep breath before he continued. The date of their burial ceremony will be decided upon our return to the estate. Warwick was surprised to hear this. Usually, the nobility would only compensate the families of the fallen warriors. There was no such thing as a burial ceremony for the average warrior. I understand, my lord. I will relay this to... If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.